Hello there.
Hello.
Hello, welcome to the stream.
Thank you for having me.
Is there background music in the game?
No, there isn't. There are
Okay.
some sound effects, which are a little annoying, so maybe you may not want to listen to them.
Whoop. Oh, hang on. I pressed space and the. Okay. Let me just. What I can do is I'll full screen the game and then things should work just fine. All right. So, do you prefer the alias time load?
Yes,
Cool. Well, thank you so much for submitting your game. And the game that I'm playing here, so this was made for the actually the competition. One second. Um, so yeah, you made this entirely by yourself within the 48-hour period. Is that right?
I did.
Nice. Oh my gosh, you have to be. Oh right, and then you can actually scrub through these red blocks ahead of you. And oh
And
my gosh.
also, if you right-click, you can place down floor blocks for those very long jumps.
Okay, yes, that is definitely important. I somehow blanked on that. um, all right. Well, do you want to talk a little bit about your background in development?
Yeah, I've been in game development for on and off for a while. I started coding when I was in high school, which led into game development. I started back with Game Maker 7, I think it was.
Nice.
Long time ago. Um, Used Game Maker all the way up to Game Maker Studio 2. I haven't been very consistent with it. It's just been on and off, mainly for like jams like this. Um, and I don't really make games outside of jams, so my skill level has plateaued to squares and clicking. Um, but yeah, I only saw this jam come up a couple weeks ago, and I thought I haven't done a jam in a while. I don't think I've done one in 3 years. So I thought I'll give this a go. And this was originally meant to be jam, not compo.
Right.
But then I realized I wouldn't have time on the third day anyway, so I
Hmm.
took what I had and I submitted it. And there's quite a few bugs, as I'm sure you've noticed.
Well, the score seems to blank out to zero when you die.
Yeah, I did that with like 5 minutes left on the clock.
Uh,
Um, because I didn't even have death in my game until 10 minutes before my time was over. So I quickly added in dying, and I thought, well, something should probably happen when you die. So then stuffed around with trying to make the score in the upper left corner move
mm,
location and resize, but that just didn't
mm,
work. So I hide the one in the top left and then show the one in the middle,
mhm.
as with the different layers, whatever. Um, and then I forgot to make the score change to whatever your score is, and that just yeah, so that's unfortunate.
They're different score instances.
Yeah, the different instances of a like a GUI text object, and I forgot to apply like the code from one to the other, and it's not dynamic.
That's okay. I can sort of see what my score is in the top corner there. So is this made in Game Studio 2?
This is made in Construct 3.
Okay. So I was gonna say it didn't like with the full screen functionality. First of all, Game Maker Studio does not seem to play nice with full screen HTML.
No. Yeah, I used to use GameMaker Studio 2. I made
Mhm.
the jump to Construct 3 when I started watching videos from one developer on YouTube, Vilaric or something. I can't remember his name.
Hmm.
Um, but he had a video that I watched on how he got into game development, where he started with like ClickFusion 2.5, then moved into Construct 3. Um, and I just wanted, like, I don't make very complex games. I just
Mhm.
wanted something simple with drag and drop, where I don't have to type in lots of code. Even though I'm a software development by day, I don't want to do that in my hobbies. Um, so I found Construct 3, and
Mhm.
it's very good for simple little prototypes like this. You just drag and drop behaviors. Like getting a platformer is as simple as dragging, dropping a platformer behavior on a player, and then you can
Mhm.
start moving and jumping. Simple. Um, Except, even though it's meant to be simple, this took me, I think, an entire day just to get the platforming correct because there's no friction setting in the platformer. So with an infinite runner like this, where you want him to keep moving right, I have to
Hmm.
use two different behaviors. One as like a platformer that keeps moving right, and then another that adds in the second layer of left and right movement. And that was so buggy, it took me basically my entire first day to get it down.
Hmm. Yeah. So yes, Atmospherium. This is in Infamous Runner. It's I don't know. Would you say what inspired the sort of active elements, like with the mouse placing and placing blocks and defeating enemies?
There was one game that I saw a couple weeks ago.
Hmm.
I was watching games on something, I think it was like top 10 Flash games.
Hmm.
That was run, the video was made early 2020 because Flash was being taken down.
Hmm.
And I think the game was called Fat Cat,
Hmm.
where it was two different player objects, one being controlled with the WASD and another being controlled with a mouse. And I thought the idea of doing two separate things with one hand, one with the other was a really cool idea because in most games, everything is typically done together.
Hmm.
Like even in FPS games where you have the mouse for looking and the left hand for movement, they work together as one person, as one player.
Hmm.
But in this game, having the idea of this game having the movement completely separate to the other feature of the game,
Hmm.
for me was interesting.
Nice. Also, I think I just named the game.
You can do this, but in later levels, there's actually projectiles that come out from the side of the screen.
Ah,
So the objective of this game was to get it. I think I have to like increase how fast it gets more difficult.
right.
Um, but the objective of this game was that later on in the levels, you have 5 or 6 different types of enemies that are coming from all directions of the screen, and it's kind of like a multitasking slash reflex.
Hmm.
So you have to be quick on left clicking and right clicking to kill and to place blocks, and also make sure you're moving the character around.
Wow. Yeah. Um, I still managed to die despite that. Um, yeah, I think it's when so my score came up as 0 the very first time I saw that, and I thought, oh, do I lose points with every block that I placed? So I thought that that would be an interesting trade-off. It's a good way to incentivize players not to place, in just an infinite row of blocks like I was doing there. Is if every time you place a block, like sometimes it's necessary to get over a gap, but that way you can't just place them infinitely.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Um, but yeah, I would not recommend cheesing it the way that I was doing there. Also, let me make sure. I don't think I shared a link to play the game at the start, so let me make sure I drop that in there now for anyone else who wants to play along. And yeah, um, so you said that this was built in Construct 3, and is that like your sort of go-to game engine to develop in for jams now?
Yeah, for jams, that would be my go-to engine,
Mm-hmm.
just because of the simplicity.
Mm-hmm.
It really abstracts a lot of the game engine from the person. Um,
Nice.
they have a behavior system, which I kind of touched on before.
Yeah.
But simple things like platforming behavior, I just click two things, my player gets platforming behavior, suddenly gravity, friction, jumping, movement, all of that is automatically put on.
Nice.
So for something like game jams when you only have limited time and you don't want to recreate basic code from scratch, something
Yeah.
like that is really helpful.
Yeah, I completely agree. I ended up, because I use GameMaker as well. I've been using GameMaker since version 5. So I get to, it's not often I hear somebody mentioning early versions of GameMaker. But, oh, there's the incoming files. And yeah, and ever since version 7 of GameMaker, I realized that, like, oh, you can actually, like, write your own libraries in the to add to the drag and drop system that they have. So I have created a couple of tiles like that myself um, to add in like exactly what you're describing, these kind of like one-click drag and drop platformer behavior, top-down movement behavior, and I had a couple others planned as well, but I kind of transitioned away from that because it's just easier to build things out modular as I go.
Yeah. I didn't even know you could do that in GameMaker. Um,
It's not super well supported, but they basically released a program called Library Maker that you could use to yeah, just use the language to write your own tabs. And
uh,
then you just had to drag and drop them into the library files, which every time the program updated, it erased itself. So it was kind of a pain. So
yeah.
and not only that, but like the same thing would happen like the snippets. I had to be the one to file a bug and tell Yo-Yo Games saying like, hey, maybe every time the program updates, you shouldn't erase my snippets file because you could customize that as well. And it for those who used it, it was really annoying to having to replace that.
Yeah, it would be.
Um, so speaking of the construct free engine, then, do you have a clever hack or shortcut that you think would be useful for others to know about beyond what you've
Um,
already described? I guess.
for something that I had to get used to,
Mm-hmm.
or something that I used in this game, Construct 3 has a lot of really cool built-in graphic effects.
Mm-hmm.
Like in my game,
Yep.
I suck at art, so I spent zero time on art, so it's just squares,
Mm-hmm.
circles. But to make it a little bit more exciting than just squares and circles, you can see there's a little of scan lines and
Yep.
there's a bit of background noise. Adding in simple effects like that, that's already built in, takes 5 seconds to do, can add a lot more depth to the game.
Yeah, the post processing effects are something that not everyone can do, and I am just going to give a quick amendment to that. Is that anyone can use these and add them in, but I like that you've kept it subtle because I also see people who have such intense chromatic abrasion in their game that like you can't even see the edges of the screen. Like it just gets blurry for the degree that the three channels are separated. So definitely consider adding them in, but just make sure you don't go overboard with them.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
the first time I see people using Photoshop, it's a similar thing. It's like, let's put all the filters on, drop shadows, bevel and emboss, outline, stroke, outer glow, inner glow. Like, will it? Just use maybe like one or two. Um, it's part of getting used to these is just starting with an overabundance and then like scaling it back and observing others and seeing like, oh, this looks good. How much chromatic abrasion? How much ambient occlusion do they have? Oh, barely any. Okay, let's go with that.
Yeah.
Um, All right. So, do you have any plans on continuing development of this game? Maybe like a post-gen version with some of the bugs fixed?
Um, I am working on turning this into a platformer.
Okay.
So I struggled on the first day. I went back and forth on should I make this a platformer or an infinite runner.
Mhm.
Eventually, I settled on an infinite runner because I thought it would be simpler. Um, because it's just the one loop going over every time and time again.
Mhm.
Um, but in my opinion, that was a bad idea because with an infinite runner, as I said before, there were so many like buggy code because Construct 3 doesn't have an infinite runner behavior, so I had to like bodge one together. Um, so I plan on turning this into a platformer, and it'll have much more enemies. It'll have some kind of storyline. The graphics I don't think will change much. There might be a little bit of improvement, but still just going to be squares really.
Sure. Well, if you do end up making a another release of the game, then please feel free to submit it on the Discord. I'd be more than happy to give it a try and give feedback on the game as it is in progress. I do. Yeah, I look forward to seeing that version, and best of luck on the development.
Awesome, thank you.
And yeah, thanks again for sharing your project. I'm gonna try my best to make it. No, I immediately died. Um, One thing I would love is if you do keep the mechanic of placing or removing, like placing blocks and killing enemies. For some reason, it's more mentally intuitive to me that left click is place and right click is destroy. Maybe that's like feeding in from Minecraft or something. That's like left click to break. Oh no, what am I saying? Left click is break, but it's also right click place. I don't know. Maybe a toggle option for the left versus right click. For some reason, in this game in particular, forget what I said about Minecraft. For this game in particular, it felt like I wanted to right click to attack and clear enemies out, and then left click to place. Um, but I feel like also if I just kept playing, I would have gotten used to that over time.
Yeah. Well, thanks for the feedback. I do plan on putting in like some kind of controls customization. Um, so yeah, that'll definitely be in there.
Yeah, and I appreciate also that you've got both space and W as jump. I got so used to using space as jump that I know other people have mentioned that they actually like to use W as jump. Um, so it's good to have both on there because W doesn't do anything, so why not?
Yeah, well, I also wanted to make sure this was both right hand and left hand accessible, as well as
Oh,
different
I got
keyboard layouts.
ah,
So I've got the WASD, then we've got
yeah.
space, and I've also got arrow keys, so you can use whatever's
What?
comfortable for you.
What? Well, hang on. What's going on here? I'm pressing up and it's making the platforms rotate diagonally and
I thought I fixed that issue. Um, I think I've only okay. So what I've probably done is I noticed this issue a while ago. The platforms actually have a movement behavior attached to them, where
yes.
the left button is being held down constantly. So
Mm-hmm.
that's how they're moving to the left. It was just
Uh,
my way of putting it in. I don't know why I did that. So when you press the up button, it activates their movement behavior to move up.
that's
Okay.
crazy. Oh my god, and that one just stayed over there.
Wow. Okay. I
Uh,
fixed this on. I fixed this. I must have fixed this on just one platform and not the platform family.
uh,
So,
yeah, because it
so
doesn't work on the
everything.
start one.
Yeah, because the start one is an extra large platform, whereas it's also small and medium. So I think I just fixed on that one platform and not the platform
Oh,
family as a whole.
it also works on enemies too, because of course they have the same behavior.
Yeah,
Ah,
that's
that's
annoying.
fun. Oh, I'm sorry about that.
That's
Don't tell
okay.
anyone.
My game, like I had the first day to do it, and then at like 7 p.m. on the first night, my father called me and said, "We need to have a family meeting tomorrow." So I spent most of my day at my parents' place, and like I need to finish my game. So I only really had like one day to do this.
Well, congratulations on being able to submit it to the competition, and I definitely look forward to seeing as you said, the sort of like platformer version of the project.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah,
All right, well, have a good night, and thanks again for submitting the game.
no worries. Thanks for having me on stream.
Yeah. All right. Bye bye.
Bye.